Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and Kier, presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley to discuss and review the second episode of the second season of Severance. Barrett, how old were you when you knew you loved doors?
I've never loved doors. Still don't. You know,
Not a door guy.
I'm a little sour on doors at the moment. And let me tell you why.
You don't respect doors.
I was delayed arriving to this podcast because I was having a guy come look at installing a new door for me on my back patio, replacing a swinging door with a patio door. Now, this same company did a beautiful new front door for me, which is lovely. But then some smug motherfuckers came in and to do some work around the door, promptly dropped a tool right on the threshold of the brand new door, and it's unfixable. Now there's just a giant dent in the threshold, and I'm furious about it.
The threshold was broken?
The threshold was damaged. The thing that you step on, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm just mad about doors right now. You know,
Wow,
I don't want to. Don't give me any doors.
Door drama.
Yeah, a lot of door drama.
What are the
going
odds?
on, right?
I love a good sliding glass door, but those can be problematic too.
Right.
They can. They come off their tracking.
Ah, right. I think you were going to say you can Michael Scott them and
also
just walk straight into them. And shatter them.
Has been known to happen as well.
Yeah.
Did you know what a pocket door was?
Of course.
I did not.
You don't know what a pocket door is?
No, I had to Google it.
Oh, yeah.
But now I kind of want one. You know?
Yeah.
Also, underrated home renovation update. The front door.
Oh, yeah.
You can
Yeah.
change the whole look of your house from
Totally.
the outside, man.
And that's what's so upsetting is that I love this new door. It's really nice. It's a game changer.
And they're not cheap.
And they are not cheap.
Doors.
And it's a game changer in terms of the aesthetic. And now, like, the guy, this was the first time that the guy that did the door came to see this. And I was like, so anything we can do about that? And he was like, nah. He was like, it's screwed into the jamb. Like, you'd have to remove the whole fucking thing, basically.
The door doer said, nah.
Yeah, so I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Unbelievable.
I need this guy from, what's the name of the company?
Great Doors.
Great Doors. I need Great Doors to come out and see if they can, find a fix for me.
Hook it up for you, dude. Well, Barrett, we were hoping they wouldn't make us wait too long to get to the Audi side of things.
That's right. And they did not.
We got what we wanted this week.
They delivered.
How'd you feel about that up front?
I felt great.
I feel fantastic too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happening in this episode. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was fun. It's fun to get out there. Fun to see Mr. Milkshake delivering pineapples
On his
sick ride. Yeah. Did you happen to notice in this episode we got more of the outside world than I think ever before? Right.
Indeed, we did.
And once again, they're really just having fun with us. That's one thing that this show does really well is it is toying with its audience.
You got to be smarter than us,
right?
You know, and they clearly are.
You catch that like every car is like a 1978 Chevy DeVille.
What's going on with that?
Yeah,
got no feel for like year. What year is it?
No clue.
Every location we go to this diner where Mark
Pips.
Pips. There's like nobody at Pips.
Mm-mm.
You get no feel for where Pips is.
There's no iPhones. The phone, the cellular mobile devices are all like, Nokia flips.
What the hell is going on out there? What is this place?
The screen that Helly is like watching, or that Helena is watching Helly on, is like has like the old, like the Jetsons look to it. Like
it's got one button to control it.
1970s.
What is this?
Yeah. It's all very strange.
Kier, man, weird place.
Yeah, the piece now that it invites so many other questions. Like, is this the only place in the United States that's like this? Have they preserved? Is it? When you'd see like the old like bomb shelter model cities. And they're all old looking.
Yeah,
because they did them in 1960 and then they never changed. Blast from the past style.
Is this like a time capsule of a
some
town?
Type of time capsule town? Like,
I don't know.
Are they just? Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Or is the alternate reality that this is taking place in, where this state of Kier, province of Egan, whatever it might be, exists? Is this just a total, like, this is just what happened to the States? This is just in like this weird, like, sort of quasi-modern but quasi-retro state.
I don't know, but you mentioning that we got more of the town than we ever have in a single episode, it was like, it was nerve-wracking for me, because every time we got a new area, I was like trying to pick up on every single possible clue, whether it was like the name of Irving's apartment complex or like Pips or whatever,
Right.
like, you know, what kind of cars were in the
Milch's
parking
license
lot.
plate, which says like Remedius, Babedius hominis or something like that.
Yeah, what?
I didn't look up what that
I
meant.
didn't either.
Yeah.
That's a Patreon question, you know? Let's dive into this thing. So the second episode of season 2 is titled Goodbye, Mrs. Selvig. It was written by co-executive producer Mohammed El Masri and directed by executive producer Sam Donovan. And this one kicks off exactly where season 1 ended, where with Mark Scout, the Audi, returning to his body right after his innie yells,
"She's alive!"
I'm going to need you to do that about 3 or 4 times today. So clearly, we are going to be dealing with the fallout of the season 1 finale in this episode, and that is what we do. So immediately we bounce over to Helena Egan just after Helly is ousted from her body, and she's being approached by her father, who I believe is named Jamie Egan, but it's Jame. Jame? Whatever. He's the current CEO
What
of
is it now?
Lumen.
J.A. what now?
Jame without an I.
Jame.
Jame Egan, current CEO of Lumen, who says to her,
"Fetid moppet."
and that's it. That's all he says. Looks irate.
Very proud of myself because I no subbies on this one, and I knew exactly what he said. I go, I think he called her a fetid moppet.
Wait, I was like, are those even real words? And this I did look up.
Yeah.
It was basically him calling her like a smelly child, was the
Okay.
explanation I was fed by the...
Aren't there moppets in Arrested Development with the Charlize Theron storyline? Aren't those things called like?
Do they
moppets?
call them Moppets instead of Muppets?
Yeah, or yeah, the with the dolls that swing down the zip line and keep hitting Michael in the face.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched that season because it's not my favorite, you know? Can't really
Mr.
remember. Yeah. Weird storyline there in Arrested Development Season 3. A strange one. Not sure how that's aged. But yeah. Fetid Moppet.
Yeah,
But it just feeds even more into the whole, like, these Egans, they don't even use, like, normal adjectives.
No, it's all very, yes. All the words that everybody in the show uses are strange, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of, like... You know
strange diction.
You know who the only person that talks like a normal person is? Well, I guess there's 2, but it's Devin and Mark Scout.
Yeah.
His sister and Mark Scout talk like normal people. Everybody else like uses words like fetid moppet.
Even
Rickon, yeah.
talks a little strangely.
Yeah.
So Helena Egan talks with some enormous...
That'd be a hoot.
James Bond villain-looking security guy named Mr. Drummond.
Yeah, who's got the weird, like...
He's huge.
He's got the haircut. He's got the No Country for Old Men haircut.
A little bit, yeah.
/ Fargo season 5 weirdo guy, like bowl cut thing happening.
But
like,
with a beard.
Yeah,
Also beard.
Weird adult.
Looks like he
bowl
could
cut
play...
thing.
Like, he looks like a former NFL offensive lineman, this guy. And he says they need to find out what all the other innies did immediately. So they're aware... Her whole team of innies, you know, became out or went out into the Audi world. We see Audi Dillon leaving the Lumen office with a bag of ice on his head as Milch watches. So this is immediately after, you know, getting his belt cut and then getting tackled. That would be a weird sensation. You're leaving work with a head injury that you don't know how you received it, right? Of course, he does find out later. Helena orders Milchik to find out every word.
By the way, once again, Milchik is up there watching from the top deck. He's watching Dylan leave. Let's just no calls, no more theories about Milchik potentially being severed. He's not. He exists on all the floors. He's out here riding around delivering pineapples and who's a what's it.
Yeah,
that's deaded. You dummies. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, he is
no bad theories around here. But that one's gone. He is not severed.
He is operating in the outside world. Yeah,
Yes.
now, I don't think for me it was a question of whether or not he was severed. It was a question of whether or not he was like a clone person.
Okay.
You know? like Mark S.'s dead wife.
Right.
Whatever she is.
Yeah.
That was what I was worried Milch
But no, he's up, he's down, he's out, he's in. So he's just a regular old Lumen baddie.
He's just in management, you know?
Yeah.
Middle management.
Yeah. Middle management milkshake.
Yes.
Milkshake.
So Milkshake is going to find out every word that all the innies said and who they said it to. He asks Helena if he should fire them, and she tells him to let Kier guide his hand. So then Helena Egan meets with the one, the only Miss Harmony Cobell, a.k.a. Mrs. Selvig.
Helena tells him, let Kier guide your hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Helena thanks Miss Cobell. I guess is it Cobell when she's at work?
Yes.
Mrs. Selvig was the alter ego she fed to Mark.
Harmony
and
Cobell is her real name, work Lumen person name.
So she thanks Harmony Cobell for acting so quickly and saving them from disaster. Miss Cobell says it cost her dearly, and Helena says she still proved her loyalty, and that's why they'd like to ask her back. Cobell wants an apology. Helena gives her one, not only from herself, but also from her father, the board, everybody, which you could tell was meaningful. And Harmony's response is, I welcome your contrition. Again, no one talks like a normal person on the show.
Correct.
So Miss Cobell wants to get started on damage control. She's like, let's jump right in. Damage control, but Helena's like, we have something else in mind. Instead, they offer her a promotion, Severance Advisory Council, which does not exist.
It's new. She's going to spearhead it.
She's going to spearhead it. Which you get the impression that
they're shelving her.
Yeah.
They're bringing her in.
Give her a project.
And give her, yes.
Can't let her go.
Right.
But don't want her doing anything important.
Right.
Severance Advisory Board. Then Helena tells her that Cobell is like, no, I want to run the severed floor. And she's like, Mr. Milkshake, now I'm going to say a combination of it, has been promoted. He is now running the severed floor, which immediately lights a fire in Cobell's eyes. She does not like, she says, you don't value me, you fear me. And Helena responds, we fear no one, which was terrifying. So Cobell says she'll put some thought into it, and away she goes, right? We see Mr. Milchik ride his super badass motorcycle that no shambolic rube could possibly pull off. And first he visits Irving, a.k.a. Mr. Bailiff, who is watching Barber of Seville on TV. Milchik asks him if he's feeling well and if anything of note has occurred tonight. So clearly he's going to go check in with each of these outies. Hey, did you just black out for a while? 38 minutes or so, whoopsie daisies, and give him an explanation, right?
Yeah.
Of course, Mr. Bailiff, Irving B., the outie, does not tell him anything. Irving is probably the most interesting character on the show to me right now.
Okay.
Because whereas Dylan's outie seems to be completely oblivious to any of the strangeness going on within Lumen.
Yes. Yeah.
And Mark is sort of tough to get a feel for his outie in this episode. We'll get to that. But Irving is the one that at the end of season 1, we see he has some sort of insight into what is occurring in there. He's painting this hallway.
So his outie is painting the hallway.
And he's a military man, right?
And we don't know exactly how he knows what that hallway looks like. It seems to be coming from him internally almost. You know what I mean? From his subconscious.
Right.
He also opens up that chest where his outie has also clearly been doing investigation and research into Lumen. He's got a list of employees, of severed employees. He has houses mapped out, including Bert's on a map already.
Right.
So
he's working something.
So Irv's outie is definitely up to something.
Which is why he doesn't want to tell Milchik anything.
Right.
So I'm very, very interested in Irving. Acts like nothing strange has happened to him. Milchik tells him, unfortunately, he's fired, right? Then he visits Dylan and tells Dylan that his innie was involved in a brief but violent altercation of which his innie was the aggressor, and he's fired. And outie Dylan is extremely upset by this, pretty much immediately. It's like, what am I supposed to tell my wife? You can just see it on his face, like this is not good for him. Yeah. Simultaneously, as Milchik is driving on his motorcycle around and firing all these people, we also watch, it's like cut back and forth with Helena Egan recording her public explanation for what happened that night. And when I say public, I just mean it's for somebody.
Yes.
We don't really know who. But the important takeaways from her apology tape, if you will, are that she says she was with a group of friends and allies when she made the poor decision to consume alcohol while on a non-Lumen medication for an arm rash. So, hitting some important things. One, because one of my big questions was like, wow, she really yelled all that in front of like what seemed to be a very important group of people.
Friends and allies.
Senators, stockholders, et cetera, so on and so forth. We don't really know. Was there like news coverage at that event? Now, it seems based on her apology that maybe this was just people who are already all the way in on Lumen and Severance.
I believe so, yes.
And that this has actually done like no public damage to the company.
Yeah, it feels like this was very much like a gala for people already, like you said, invested, supportive.
And even utilizing it, like the senator's wife or whatever, right?
Yes. And she does mention kind of early on in this episode when they're dealing with the fallout that they believe that they've like confiscated all of the recording, like any of the recordings that were made while her innie delivered this truth bomb.
They just wiped it from the record, basically.
Right, but TBD. We'll see if any of that kind of like slips out, right? And if any of it does kind of make the public-facing news media.
Great point. So she says this combination of alcohol and this non-Lumen medication for an arm rash had an inebriating effect, which caused her to say some deeply regrettable things. Basically, she uses this recording as an excuse to write off everything her innie said in the season 1 finale, which is pretty devastating as a viewer. But again, I think your point is an important one. We don't know that this is actually going to work.
Yeah,
they do seem pretty confident, but I don't know. It was such a big moment.
Yeah.
To have Helly step out instead of Helena and say all that and yell, they're torturing us in there, right? And so just to have it like wiped off the board feels a little cheap. Like you're just like, fuck, no. So yeah, after the cut back and forth scene between Milch firing people and Helena Egan recording her apology, we go to the new intro sequence, which was trippy, man.
Very.
And there was a lot happening. At one point, there's a baby with the head of Kier crawling on the ground. I kind of loved it, but it was a lot.
I love this intro. It's such a good, like, kind of just they expound on the original, right? And it goes even further and gets even trippier and weirder. I don't know what this technology is that they're doing to make this. It's like this like realism, but like sort of cartoony.
Stop motion claymation.
Yes, but with a very realistic look. I don't know what it cost to make this intro, but my guess is multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah, I know back in the day, stop motion stuff was really, really time consuming and expensive. So like, do you remember like a Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yeah.
Shit like that, right?
Yeah.
But people pointed this out after the Lumen is Listening video from episode 1 of season 2 that like that stop motion technology would take a really long time to do. And so maybe it actually has been 5 months was their point.
But then in this episode alone, we know that's been 48 hours basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So that didn't really matter.
No.
My point is, I'm not sure if technology now makes it a lot quicker and easier to do this type of thing.
I don't think the intro is true claymation stop motion. I think it's definitely done digitally, but it has that look.
Yeah.
That's like somewhere in between like real life and Wallace and Gromit. But it's really well done. I think it's super cool.
Now, did you watch it trying to pull things from it?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, me neither. I refuse.
I think
too much.
And maybe there's some stuff layered in there, but I also think most of it is just about like the duality of being a severed worker. It's like they always like Mark seems to like trip through a door or a mirror and then
stumble into his
and then his one self is like carrying his other self, but then it like turns when he goes into the next room. And then like I remember the one that always stood out to me in the season 1 intro is when a severed worker is walking towards Lumen holding up a version of himself that it seems to be cut into 7 or 8 different pieces and is flapping in the wind like balloons.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like we get the payoff of that until episode 1 when Mark gets handed all the blue balloons with his face on every single one, and he's walking through the Lumen hallways with the balloons. Like, so no, I'm not reading too deep into it. I think it's mostly just kind of like supposed to harness the vibes.
Yeah, but Psychos absolutely paused this frame by frame and went nuts with it.
Perhaps
not you and I though. Not you and I. Have we seen what these innies eat for like lunch at the office?
Besides Christmas mints?
Yeah, besides like the snacks they've got in there, Christmas mints and salsa.
No, I don't think we have.
I don't think we have either. Do you think they bring their own lunch?
No, because nobody's going down that elevator with a brown bag in their hand.
Well, you know what would help improve the innies' quality of life at Lumen by ensuring they have great food for lunch every day, Barrett?
No, what's that?
Today's sponsor.
Oh, wow.
Factor Meals.
What a professional segue.
Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. If you're like me, there are some days you get home from work or school or whatever and you just need to be able to plop down on the couch and enjoy the next episode of your favorite TV show without worrying about what's for dinner. Factor takes this dream and makes it a reality with the best meals delivered straight to your door. Dinner time at my house can be extremely chaotic with 2 little kids and 4 dogs, so it's nice that my wife and I can turn to Factor to make sure our family is still eating well when we don't have time or energy to cook. Got another box of Factor in last week. Actually had a Factor meal for lunch twice this weekend. Delicious, fast, convenient, incredible food. Yummy, yummy in my tummy, Barrett. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. It's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat, Barrett.
Was that any activity or any activity?
In any activity. any activity.
For any activity.
Yeah.
Or any Audi activity.
Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/OCC50OFF and use code OCC50OFF to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code OCC50OFF at factormeals.com/OCC50OFF to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's half off your first box, ladies and gentlemen. Half. Lumen, if you're listening, jump on this deal. Take care of the innies. factormeals.com/OCC50OFF. You can see the link in the description of this episode. So after the new intro sequence, we're back to Rick and Hale and Devon's house, Devon being Mark Scout's sister, where the last of the guests, Rebecca, is leaving. And her parting message is, don't punish the baby for this, which was a very funny line. Was Rebecca the freak show that Mark had to share
the
with?
book with?
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah, very funny character.
She's worried at the end of season 1 that she's going to have to change her name again.
Yeah. Rebecca. So we quickly get to Mark, Devon, and Rickon discussing
By
Mark's...
the way, underrated moment when Miss Selvig also says, can I share with your book? And then basically like hovers in a sorority squat over Mark's shoulder during Rickon's reading at the end of season 1. Okay,
yeah, it reminded me of Milch dancing behind Dylan at the,
Yes.
what was it?
It's
the
the
jazz party?
It's the musical, the MDE, the musical dance experience.
Musical dance experience, there you go. So we quickly get to them discussing Mark's innie yelling, "She's alive!" And they all think he was referencing the baby, which Mrs. Selvig had temporarily taken, so that makes sense. And the second that they said that, I was like, no, damn it. There's going to be an excuse for everything. We're not going to make any movement, fuck.
Right.
But it's not quite the way it goes, right? Yep. So fortunately, Devon wants to Occam's razor this shit and walk through everything to be sure, and you can tell immediately, like, she's not quite buying the innie Mark was yelling that about their baby. Very, very fake baby in this scene. And that I know it's a hard thing, and it's supposed to be a newborn, so it's even smaller.
Yeah.
But this particular baby, fake baby, you can just tell.
Right.
And it's not because like I'm a parent now, like you could always tell. And I feel like this is one of those things they need to find a way to improve in Hollywood. Because it's completely motionless on Rickon's shoulder. And he's like trying to do all the things you would do with a baby on your shoulder still, like give it a little bouncy, rub its back.
It's funny. It's funny that you mention it because there's a scene in season 1 where Miss Selvig and Devon are like passing the baby back and forth
for the old lactation consultation.
Yes, where the baby is very obviously not real. There's no baby in there. It's just like a swaddle with like nothing in it.
Yeah.
What they need to do, and you're right. I'm surprised that they don't have a little bit better tech. The baby doll that they put in there, it needs to like weigh the exact right amount of a baby.
I think that's part of the problem.
And then it also needs to they need to make it out of, you remember when you'd go to the aquarium or the zoo when you were 10 years old?
Yeah.
And you'd go to the gift store and you'd get one of those little slidery thing. It's like a packet filled with some type of soft gel liquid with items suspended in it, and it would slip and slide back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
They need to make it out of that.
So that
it kind of moves around and flops around and it's like a little slippery to hold. You got to
It's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
So do that, Hollywood.
Because this isn't it.
Free idea.
Clearly they don't care.
Yeah.
If the baby looks fake or not.
And
but
it
does
also
kind of bug me.
And to their point, I didn't catch it on this one. This is
Damn.
I was not looking at Rick and holding the baby.
It killed me even more on the rewatch. I was so focused on the baby, I didn't even.
What does he dub Harmony though? Kobelvig?
Yeah. Combines the names to make it easier.
Yeah, Kobelvig, I think that's what he calls it.
Yeah. So next thing you know, Mr. Milchick shows up with his magnificent motorcycle helmet, which frankly, I completely agreed. I was like, yeah, that's a pretty sick helmet.
The whole thing, he's out there riding, man.
Yeah, dude.
He's on that hog.
So Mark the Audi plays this whole thing pretty aloof, considering all of his suspicions up to this point. And again, at this point in the episode, I'm checking in with myself. All right, what did Mark the Audi learn last season? Because remember, we only dealt with Mark the Innie in episode 1, and Mark the Innie and his whole batch of information is pretty updated and fresh in our brains. But Mark the Audi, as we mentioned on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles last week, he saw some shit. He saw a murder.
Yeah.
They killed Grainer in front of him with a blunt object.
Right.
And some lady was like, take this card and your Innie will know what to do. And before that, he met Petey, right? And the whole season, he just grew more and more suspicious of what was happening at Lumen up until the point where he's at the book reading pre-Innie invasion, and he's like, I'm thinking about quitting this job.
Petey didn't even have a head.
Our pets' heads are falling off. So
yeah, he knows a lot. His Audi is at least, ears are perked up a little bit, right?
He's kind of part of the rebellion.
Yeah.
So when you're watching him in this scene, you can't get a read at all. Mark Scout, the Audi, does an incredible job of making it seem like he's mildly annoyed by what has occurred.
Right.
But really, he's just fine.
Yeah, but he's not immediately just buying into what Milchick's selling either. You know what I mean?
No, it's kind of a blank slate, though.
So he's aloof, but he's also giving some pushback on just the idea that they'll just brush this whole thing under the rug and he'll be back at work on Monday.
Right, definitely. Yeah, no. So Milchick explains that the overtime contingency was commandeered by one of Mark's office mates, which woke them for 39 minutes, I think he says. Devin, his sister, Mark Scout's sister, jumps Milchick's ass over the fact that Miss Cobell was pretending to be a lactation consultant and living next door to Mark, right? Milchick assures them that Miss Cobell will never descend to the severed floor again.
That's right. Yeah.
And not bedevil them any further around these parts either.
Yeah.
Right?
No more bedeviling, Russ.
She's out.
The
bedeviling
the bedeviling is over.
No more bedeviling. So they tell Milchick, hey, man, listen, it's been a long day. We're all tired. Can we have some time? And he's like, sure thing. And Mark, I'll see you Monday. And when Mark expresses doubt over whether or not he will return on Monday, Milchick replies that what his Innie did, regardless of how disruptive it may have been, was very brave and, quote, I'd hate to reward his courage with non-existence.
Yeah.
Some heavy shit,
yes,
frankly.
Yeah.
There's going to be another conversation between Mark, Scout, and Milchick a little bit later in the episode. And when you combine this line, I'd hate to reward his courage with non-existence, and what Milchick says later, it's a pretty solid pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. So I left this with this scene with kind of two interesting or thoughts that I thought my thoughts were interesting.
Think about those thoughts. Think about them.
The first was I thought that as Milchick was letting Kier guide his hand here, the fact that Mark's Innie saw people and talked to people seems to have kept him in the fold. That's why they are assuaging him and making offers and continuing to bring him back to work. It was when Milchick thought that they had no exposure to anybody else that he said, we're nipping this in the bud. where you're out.
Right.
Irving did actually probably see somebody though. So that's a little wrinkle that's out there.
Well, he saw him, but he didn't talk to him. He's just banging on Bert's door, but he didn't actually converse with anyone.
Right.
So there's no more like mystery to solve there.
Yeah.
Whereas Mark,
although it seems like there's a little bit of mystery.
Irving played it off, right? He's like, nothing strange happened to me tonight, which let's go back there for a second.
Yeah.
That's the first place he goes, right? He knocks on Irving's door.
Mm-hmm.
And Irving is home as his Audi, who gives up nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before Irving, the innie, returns to Lumen at all.
Right.
Okay. So we're meant to believe that Irving, the Audi, came to...
Banging on the
door. And went, drove home.
Yes.
And then was like, I'm not telling these people shit.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the extent of his experience.
Yeah.
And because he's lying to Milch and saying nothing strange happened, I've been here all night watching The Barber of Seville.
Right.
Milch has no concerns about him.
Right, and fires him.
Whereas Mark was at a party, his sister immediately says, yeah, I talked to his innie.
Yeah.
And that makes him concerned enough to need to keep Mark around.
That's what it seemed like. The second thing that I thought was interesting is now that even the Lumen folks are bringing up that these innies kind of have their own consciousness, I'd hate to reward him with non-existence, blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
You're going to quit work sometime. You know, there's people out there getting permanently retired and whatnot.
Right.
Like
they only play this card when it's beneficial to them.
It seems like that. Yeah. It made me kind of wonder, you know, what Lumen's interpretation of these kind of newborn people is, because it's a job. Like theoretically, it ends at some point. So your innie's going to die kind of before your Audi, almost assuredly. I don't know. It's just something that kind of was jumping around.
No,
it's
a good question. Does Lumen actually have any respect for the innies?
Yeah.
Back to that problem again. And my assumption has always been no.
Right.
Especially based on like when Helly makes the request to be, you know, relieved of her duties, and her Audi says no, but then now we know her Audi is actually the daughter of the CEO, so it kind of makes sense that she'd be like, no, we need to keep me in this program.
Right.
I'm one of the faces of, or I am the face of Severance for Lumen. So, yeah, I guess still unclear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We jump over to Irving for just a second, who pulls a map from his pocket with Bert Goodman's name on it and a location marked, which Audi Irving is the one who made that map, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did any Irving add Bert to it, or
Nope.
he just found Bert, and that's where he went?
And that's where he went.
So this is Audi Irving realizing, okay, this is the house I was at.
Yes.
This is the house I was at. Okay.
Correct.
We also see Helena Egan reviewing footage of the severed floor office security cameras. She watches Mark and Helly say goodbye to each other before Helly boards the elevator to leave, but of course she pops back out and kisses Mark S. In case they don't come back.
Or in case they do.
Helena Egan is seemingly overcome with emotion and perhaps horniness, slams on the pause button, which, again, just one button on this controller, has to collect herself, then rewinds it and watches it all again. What's she feeling here, Barrett?
Yeah, so...
Big scene.
There are two reads here. And again, the show, they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing here.
They're playing us like fiddles.
They are playing us like fiddles, yes. My initial read, because I went into this episode sure that's Helena on the severed floor, not Helly. My initial read is that she is studying Helly. She is learning about the relationships that she developed there. She is picking up all the cues. Oh, I was starting to feel this guy. I better make sure I like him when I'm down there.
Oh, okay.
That type of thing.
For when I'm a double agent. Okay.
I'm learning about what Helly was like and what she was doing down
And to
there.
be clear, if you're not up to speed with us here, there's a huge contingency of people, one of which Barrett is, that believes that was Helena, or believed that was Helena Egan pretending to be Helly in the season 2 premiere. Continue, Barrett.
Correct. So the other read, however, is that Helena is this, Puritan Amish Kier person who is super buttoned up and under the thumb of old Jame, who's out here calling her a fetid moppet, and she's living this weird ass life with nothing real or joyous in it. And she is taken by the fact that her innie is experiencing something completely unlike anything she ever possibly could have imagined for herself.
Right.
She is
her innie has a better life than her.
She is untethered from any of this weird bullshit that's going on out here.
Executive cult life.
She is, and I mean, think about what Helly's like. She is completely unfiltered. She grabs life by the balls. She is running around the hallways without a second thought. She is very active and has tons of agency. She's kissing boys down there.
You would say Helly doesn't give a fuck.
Right. So that's and that cut to her eyes, and when they are flickering and gleaming, and if you look real close, the TV is reflecting off that close up of her pupil. That's the other read, is that she is actually interested, potentially even envious of this life that Helly has begun to create.
Yeah, and it would be a crazy, crazy thing to see. I mean, it's asking a question that the show hasn't really hit on before, which is if let's say this existed, what if your innie was better off than you?
Is better than you, yeah.
Because it's like a fresh start for your personality or your soul or whatever in there.
Yeah.
And in this case, it does seem that Helena Egan is watching Helly R maneuver and experience love or at the very least a fixation on Mark.
A crush.
And she's like, what? Well, I don't have that.
Yeah.
It sucks out here.
By the way, by the end of this episode, I'm completely flipped back to the other side.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people were, which I found to be very, very funny. So Barrett is saying now that this did not actually, once the episode was all said and done, it did not change his mind.
No. It did. I'm back on. That is Helly down there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it did. It completely flipped me back the other way.
Okay. Thank God.
I'm going with reading number 2 there.
Okay. A lot of people took this your first way.
Yes.
That this was studying
as did
to become her.
When I first watched the scene, that's the way that I took it.
Yeah. Oh, you watched the inside the episode thing after the fact, though.
I did.
Yeah. It's one of the rubs.
Yeah.
Of the inside the episode, because they pretty explicitly say what she's feeling.
They do,
which I still don't love that, because it's that is up to us to interpret as viewers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but I take everything that they say in the inside the episode with a large grain of salt, though, as well.
Well, and
because they're clearly still playing with this.
Yeah.
And I think they almost are purposely pushing you and pulling you
in different directions.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to the other part later in the episode that made me sure, I was right. That was Helly R in episode 1, not Helena Egan.
Yeah, and there are other spots that
exactly
if they're probably the same ones that you're going to call out. But
okay, cool.
Yes, it was more than just the inside the episode.
Yes, for sure. So the next morning, seemingly, Devin texts Mark saying, last night was weird and she wants to buy him some shitty diner food. But first, we see Dylan drive to do a job interview at Great Doors, which is probably the funniest scene in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
At Great Doors, he is interviewed by a dude with strikingly similar characteristics and features and appearance, right?
Uh-huh.
He grills him on his knowledge of doors, how much he loves doors, when he realized he loved doors, his favorite door, his favorite finish on a door.
Semi-gloss.
Yeah.
That's hot.
He's going through his job application. He's like a couple of short-term things right before Lumen, and then he's like, Lumen makes their doors in-house. It's fucking hubris. He's so pissed that Lumen makes their own doors.
That was a very Dylan line.
Yeah, the interview is going really well until Dylan makes the joke. He asks him if he likes kickball, and he's like, you mean professionally or whatever? And he's like, yeah, we play kickball on Wednesdays, and the winner gets a prize. And he's like, a door prize. Didn't love the joke.
Tanks it. He
can't make light of the door life.
Right.
They take it very seriously at Great Doors.
Yeah.
So
steps in it. Really puts his foot right in his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
It's all downhill from there.
He's like, sorry. Turns out, taking a severed job causes the rest of society to treat you like an ex-con, essentially. That is the comp for IRL.
What does he say? Where he's like, "We're not looking for I'm looking for one good person, not two, or something like that." What do you think this is a carpet manufacturer?
Yeah.
He throws big carpet under the rug. There's a little pun for you. Under the bus is what I meant to say, though.
So in season 1, we see this get played with a little bit when Mark is like at a dinner party with Rickon and Devin, and they're like, Mark is a severed person, and people are like, oh, but it seems more like interest than it does like judgment.
Yes, but they're doing I thought that was a very big scene in season 1 because they're all kind of, what it feels like is that they're kind of biting their tongues a little bit,
like not gonna say it.
Yeah, they're treating it as diplomatically as possible there.
So they're in a social setting,
right? Exactly. You're not gonna, we deal with this all the time in modern day life, right? It's like you're gonna dance around it. Maybe you'll prod a little bit.
Then you get home and you bash that person behind their back.
Exactly. So
that's the polite society way of handling things.
But yes, it definitely seems like the general public's consensus on Severance is that it is not great. Not great, Bob.
This guy thinks it's abhorrent.
Abhorrent, yes.
That's a tough word.
That's right. That's
fiery.
one
I've never had that one thrown at me.
Strong emotion.
And I've had some thrown at me. Words. Strong ones, but not abhorrent. So
if you want to circumcise your brain, that's your choice.
Yeah.
But frankly, I think it's abhorrent.
So Dylan does not get this gig.
No.
At Great Doors. He's goes out to his car. He's being sad in it. Phone rings. He ignores it. Phone rings again. He picks it up.
Yeah.
And I believe this is his wife.
It's his wife.
That has called him. And he says something like, read the room. I would have picked up the first time if it was good news or something like that.
Well, yeah.
And then he asks if they need more baby wipies. And says he'll be home soon. Now, we knew he had a kid.
Right.
But this sounds like he has a second kid, maybe.
Yeah. There are multiple kids mentioned in season 1. He has more than one kid.
Multiple children, one of which might be a newborn,
or
at the very least not potty trained yet.
I don't know.
That's the only time you need baby wipes, really. Baby wipies are mostly used on kids that aren't potty trained. But
okay.
I guess you're still using to clean up toddlers and shit.
No,
but
but you're right. You're right.
I'll try not to read too far into that.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
He's got more than one kid. That's one of them's young.
Okay. So Devin at the diner wants Mark to contact his innie and confirm what he meant when he yelled. I'll cue you up again.
Yeah, I'm going to skip that one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, I'll do it. She's alive! That's my best Barrett doing Mark, the innie, she's alive impression.
Sorry, I took too big of a breath.
You choked. You literally choked.
To prepare my she's alive, and the air went down the wrong pipe.
Gotcha, bitch. So Mark is really upset that Devin is still digging, and he's like, he's oddly defensive from the get-go, like first scene of the episode or whatever. He's like, it doesn't matter, I'm quitting anyway. He reminds Devin that he identified his dead wife and saw her body, and that he had to tell her parents and students that she had died, which was a thing we were curious about, like the circumstances of, because it was a car crash, right?
Correct. And there's two big pieces of information, though, here in this conversation that are doled out in individual portions.
What are they?
Number one, he identified the body. But then they continue talking, and Devin says that I was affected by her death, too. She was my family as well. And he says, if Rickon's body burned...
Car crash, fire... That so burned, who could tell?
Right. He mentions that the body is burned, essentially. He adds that little thing in there.
Very badly burned.
Very badly burned, yes. And seems like the identification of the body could have had other things on it that were easy to place there to be identifiable as Gemma, but...
Holy shit.
Not actually her.
So what do we do with this? Well,
I think, I mean...
What's the inference?
The inference is that she did not die in this car crash.
That Lumen could have scooped her body and used her as a wellness lady.
Correct.
Who's never allowed to leave.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Fuck. This show, man.
Because we've made reference to like this idea of like clones being a potential on the show.
I think mostly because they showed us that room full of goats.
Right.
We were like, aha! Clones.
Cloning. Yeah. Because they cloned the goat that one time. Yeah.
We don't know. It's just like, you see a bunch of goats in a room. The guy tells you they're not ready yet.
That's a good point. I forgot about the cloning and the goats.
They're cloning these goats, man.
Yeah. Goats have that clone connotation to them.
We brought up the potential of ghosts.
Obviously.
Ghosts,
yes.
goats.
Ghosts and goats.
But this would be some kind of...
Yeah, but now I'm thinking that
different angle.
More likely is that they scooped her up.
Like Lumen goes around Kier looking for opportunities like this
to grab,
to do switcheroos.
To do switcheroos, yes.
With people that have been badly burned.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So Devin, his sister, does not want to let this go.
No.
Mark gets more and more upset.
Frankly, it's pretty interesting that Devin is so willing to buy the fact that maybe this death was one big ruse, right?
Well, I think it's more that like Innie does come out holding the wedding photo and yell, "She's alive!" And like, if I'm in that room, my first instinct is that he's talking about his wife.
Mm-hmm.
It is easy, given the circumstances, to be like, "Oh, the baby," but why would the Innie be that invested in the baby's life?
Right.
So it doesn't really track. So I get why she has this suspicion that she's pulling the thread and hoping the whole sweater will unravel.
Yeah.
And Mark calls it obscene. Her obsession with not letting this go, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a bit of a scene in this restaurant, Pips, and then he storms off. And that's when we see Mr. Drummond has been there, eavesdropping on their entire conversation. Also, he has Frolic tatted on his hand.
Yeah. Which is one of the four...
weird Egan words.
Yeah. It's one of the four...
Like
what are they?
Primal emotions or something that Egan explains, which are also
none
represented.
Of which are good. Frolic, woe,
mischief, I think, is one of them.
And two others, yeah.
Yeah, they all. That was one of my problems with it. I was like, these are all like the bad human emotions. And when they show Miss Casey on the screen at the end of episode
Frolic
1,
is the good one.
I guess
You're having fun when you're frolicking.
But Drummond doesn't seem like he does much frolicking.
No. And the tattoo is pretty, it's pretty intimidating looking.
Yeah. Like a fucking Russian mafia hitman tattoo, except it says frolic. and also, it should be noted, because I don't think we've said this yet, there's like boxes and letters on the Miss Casey screen at the end of episode 1. Those represent all those words. Woe, frolic.
Is that confirmed? Because somebody hit us with that on Twitter, but then couldn't find a screen grab that confirmed.
I am like 99.9% sure. Me and that dude kept going on Twitter, but then also we got like voicemails and other messages about it. And I'm pretty confident that's what those boxes represented. But regardless, it's not important for here.
Woe, frolic, dread, and malice.
Yeah, those all seem bad.
Except for frolic.
But even that, does that mean like play?
Yeah.
It's not even an emotion. That's a thing you do, you know?
Right.
I don't know. These people, man. So next we see Audi Irving using a payphone to call someone and say, quote, "You're not picking up, I get it. I want you to know my Innie got the message." What message? I don't know. I don't remember his Innie getting a message. Do you remember Innie Irving getting a message?
Nah.
I guess he's assuming that based on Innie Irving's breakout and going to Bert's place, that he got a message that Audi Irving sent. But I don't know. I think Audi Irving is wrong here. I don't think Innie Irving got the message.
Who do you think he's calling?
No idea. But probably that group that killed Grainer at the end of season 1, if I had to guess.
Okay, that's a good guess.
Right?
Yeah.
Because again, he's been doing this research. Audi Irving, he's fucking around. He wants to find out.
Yeah.
So he hangs up when a car approaches. I don't think we can see who's in that car.
Oh, we see who's in the car.
Is it Drummond?
No, it's Bert.
Oh, it is Bert. I forgot they give us his face.
Yeah.
So it's like Bert followed.
Bert Goodman.
He followed Audi Irving after the banging on the door, which I probably would too.
Yeah. Who is this guy banging on my door?
Holy shit.
I'm going to follow his ass.
Holy shit. He's using a payphone. All right. People also called out the payphone as another
like old school retro thing.
But I was like, but also if you obviously if you don't want to be tracked or you think your phone might be tapped, you go use a payphone. Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
Watch The Sopranos one time. So that night, Mr. Milch arrives at Mark's place with a pineapple-centered gift basket. And I meant to go to the grocery store and buy a fucking pineapple on the way to the office today, but I didn't. And they seem like they're pricey.
Well, I mean, have you seen the price of eggs? Lord knows how much the pineapples cost these days.
What is one pineapple? What could it
$10?
be? $10?
Yeah.
You know? So he brings this pineapple-centered gift basket thing. He tells Mr. Scout they got off on the wrong foot last night, that he knows he's still weighing his decision on whether or not to return to Lumen, and that a 20% raise is on the table, plus a full investigation into his innie's claims, plus regular wellness checks from an independent org. And just let's stop right there for a second before we get to the last thing. This felt like it was making fun of the way companies reward you for your service.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because like you hear 20%, and as someone who's worked at a job, you're like, hey, that's a good bump. And then you're immediately like, no, brain, shut the fuck up. It's not a good enough bump. Don't take it, Mark. No. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like all these little stupid assurances that you take, and you're like, this is great.
It's nice that they're still playing with that, because that was, I feel like that was one of the things that people really liked about season 1 is obviously it's setting up all this mystery and it's got good characters, but it also felt like it was saying something about work-life balance and corporations and how they treat you and all of that.
Yeah.
And as we moved into season 2, it's like we're so carried away and taken with the mystery of it all.
Well, what's happening
that you lose some of that, like some of the kind of nuance and insight that has like real world application and meaning.
Yeah, so they brought some of that back here, which I agree was much appreciated. So then Milch asks Mark if he still feels like every day is a year and he's choking on his dead wife's ghost. And this is the conversation I was referencing earlier in the pod when I said, like, the combination of these messages that Milch hits outie Mark with, very effective. Basically being like, hey, look, dude, your life out here, it sucks. You are depressed and miserable and shitty.
Yeah.
Your innie is none of those things.
Right.
Is none of those things. Quote, he knows nothing of the pain I see in you right now. He's found love. The solace you have given him down there will make its way to you. It just takes time. I hope you'll give us that time, Mr. Scout. And by the end of it, I was like, fuck it, I would do it.
Well, another really interesting comment right? That this idea that the tranquility or the joy that your innie finds can
seep out to you.
Right? And we already seen
somehow help you heal. Yeah.
Yes. And I thought that was a really interesting concept too. We already see some of this like play in the subconscious when Irv is down in the severed floor, and when he gets caught dozing. You're not allowed to doze, no dozing. And the paint is just like seeping through his dreams, Like
and clearly that affects his outie.
Right. So there's
seepage.
There is seepage. There is some type of some subconscious connectivity there. But I thought that was an interesting one where he is part of the pitch here, part of the severed pitch, is that the kind of the clean slate, fresh start that you are able to start over with, that you're able to start with down there, and feel that kind of like new life, new joy, all those types of things, like it's supposed to kind of eventually make its way to the outie as well.
Yeah, and it was a great part of the premise for the show in season 1. Why would anybody sign up for this? Well, his wife died in a car crash 2 years ago. He wants freedom from that in some reality. Yeah. Right.
Very much feels like a you gotta love yourself before you can love anybody else type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's something that we feel familiar with in like self-help and therapy and psychology and all that type of stuff. Right. But
definitely. Yeah. I also, just because we're on this point, Dylan, I felt like we got the answer for why Dylan signed up to be a severed employee, and it's like he didn't really have a lot of motion.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot going for him.
Right.
He didn't have some great job history. He was somebody who needed this job, right?
Yeah.
So if you're asking yourself, like, what kind of person goes and becomes a severed employee, like people who struggle to find work in other arenas, right? Or somebody who's gone through devastating loss that needs an escape, right? So like, I like that they're peppering us with these little, explanations for why anybody would be in their right mind, turn their mind into two different minds.
Well, okay, that's a great insight. And now that you've said that, now I'm thinking through the way that each of these individuals, the way their innie acts, and it is almost like
opposite.
It's almost opposite.
Because you see Dylan as an innie, and you're like, well, he's the ass kicker. He's got all the finger traps.
He's got all the finger traps. He's the hardest worker. He
seems very smart,
proud of being good at his job,
respected.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Helly, the super controlled, reserved, person on the inside, is the loudest and most brash on the inside. Mark S, who's depressed and has no control over his own life, like is a leader and has control and is feels solid. He's on solid ground.
Seems like a happy fellow.
Seems like a happy fellow. Yeah.
Enjoys what he does. Enjoys his coworkers. Having a good old time. Yeah. You're not wrong.
So, I did just pull up a thing when I looked up the Dread Malice Woe thing. There's a screen grab, and when they bin something, the bin opens and it does pop up with the 4 little code, like little abbreviations of the 4
Egan emotions,
whatever those things
you want to
called.
call them.
I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah. Missing out on a show everyone is talking about isn't an option for the Clam fam. As a result, I'm constantly signing up for this streaming service or that one just to watch some random show like Landman. And then a few months later, I realize I've been paying for that streamer long after I finished the show. It's a problem. That's why getting Rocket Money was such a game changer for me. They'll find your unwanted subscriptions and even help you cancel them so you never have to worry about them slipping through the cracks. And wouldn't you know it, today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They can automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save, then asks them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service, so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/dragon today. That's rocketmoney.com/dragon. rocketmoney.com/dragon. So, Mr. Mark Scout returns to the Lumen offices.
They're the Tempers, by the way, for those of you screaming at your radios.
Tempers. Thank you for that. Mark Scout, the Audi, returns to the Lumen offices where Helena Egan watches him exit his car through the window, almost like longingly, but, just she's invested in whether or not he arrives back at the office, obviously, one way or the other. Helena asks Mr. Drummond if she's satisfied with this, if he is satisfied with this. It seems Drummond is some kind of like intermediary between Helena and the CEO,
Okay.
He's not just like her security guy. Mm-hmm. Like he sits in on the Cobell conversation to make sure Helena is doing her job correctly, it seems.
Okay.
Almost like a babysitter that the CEO has put on Helena. Drummond says, quote, the sister seems more uppity than he is, which was very, very accurate. And remember, Drummond was at the diner or the listening to the conversation between Devin and Mark. The curly-haired lady who acted as a middleman to Miss Cobell and the board last season.
Natalie?
Is that her name?
I think so.
She asks who Milchik is bringing to MDR, and this is when Milchik said he's got a floater from overseas, our Italian guy, and a pair from 5X.
5X?
Drummond is surprised by this. The mention of 5X.
Wow, 5X.
I think it's because of what Mark W. tells us in episode 1, that 5X never hit quota. So it's like one of the least successful branches ever. So he's like, you grab 2 people from 5X, the shittiest branch we've ever had. Milchik says...
Do we know what branch Mark is? I feel like they've said it before, but
They say it in the Lumen is listening video, but I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Milchik says he got, or that he had 48 hours to pull this together. He's like, come on, give me a break. I had to go to 5X. And he says, hopefully there will be some chemistry.
And there's your timestamp, by the way. It's been 2 days, not 5 months.
Yeah. Helena says, we don't need chemistry. We need Mark S. back to work long enough to complete Cold Harbor.
Cold Harbor. Reference to the file that we see at the end of episode 1. Yep.
And those are the file names in the top left corner, but Cold Harbor and its attachment somehow to Miss... what's his wife? Miss Casey.
Miss Casey / Gemma.
Seems important. So why do they specifically need Mark S. to complete Cold Harbor? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there's like a rule where if somebody starts a file, they have to finish it. I think there is. I think that's mentioned in season 1.
That sounds right. Yes. Yeah.
But still, strange mystery here.
Yeah, and indications that we know that Mark had in season 1, they talk about how Mark had like one of the luckiest, or they call it luck, but remember how there's like talk about how he finished a file in 1 day, one time, or something like that?
Right.
He had unbelievable success at doing the macro data refining early on in his career. So he's a bit of, he's a little bit of a wonderkind down there to the innies, it would seem, at least his little pod, right? And so just more kind of feedback that whatever he's doing down there seems to be working well.
He's good at it.
He's being very successful, all of which seems tied to the fact that whatever he's doing is connected to his wife, somebody that he knew really well.
Yeah.
So that all seems very connected. That whatever is happening there is like, hey, the best person to fill out all the ways that somebody is somebody that knows them extremely well. But it's something like that. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. We watch Mark go up and down the elevator saying good morning and goodbye to Judd, the security guy.
Yeah, he's back to work.
Right.
This is his Audi has agreed to come back to work, sold by what Mr. Milchick offers, and is back at it.
So him going up and down, though, up and down, that's when the events of the season 2 premiere are unfolding.
That's right.
So next, Milchick listens to a tape recording of Mark S.'s call to the board.
Yeah, and we see
with Helena, Egan, and Drummond.
We see the clock on the wall. Is it Judd?
Yeah.
Morning, Judd.
Yeah.
It keeps it's like 9:05, 9:15, 9:15, 9:15, and then it would be on his way down. It's like 4:30, 4:45, 5, and then on that one, he's down at like 9:05 and then back up at like 9:15.
Because that's the day everything went wrong.
That's when he makes the call and he gets tossed immediately, pretty much right after that.
Yes. So Drummond says the board is going to give Mark S. what he wants, including Heliar, because he won't finish without them. Again, implying that somehow Mark S., the innie, is very much needed by Lumen to finish this specific file, Cold Harbor, for one reason or another.
Yeah.
This is the line that confirms to me that it was Heliar, the innie, in episode 1.
Same. This is what I picked up on as well. And once again, you can read this both ways.
If you choose to.
Take your pick. That you can say to yourself, well, they're going to, quote unquote, give him Heliar. They're going to put Helena back down there that she is also part of it. But no, my read was the same as yours. They say we're giving him his team back, including Heliar, almost as more of like a, sorry, sis, but you got to go back down there too.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're still in this shit.
You're still in it too. Yeah.
Yes.
That was my read, is almost that he says that because it's kind of like whether Helena wants to keep going back down there or not. She has to, because she's part of that team.
Yeah, and I don't think enough time has passed between Helena Egan watching this one clip of her innie and Mark having romance to go full Little Mermaid and want to be part of their world. You know what I mean? And like strike a deal with and then wouldn't Lumen and the Egans and Mr. Drummond be aware if Helena went rogue and snuck herself into the severed floor instead of allowing the innie outie, respecting the innie outie balance?
I think it's too dangerous. Right? If they need Mark to finish this file, then they need things to be normal for Mark. And as he was maybe the closest person to Helly,
can't have her in there screwing around with that.
Yeah, you don't think that any Mark might pick up on some clues that this isn't the person that he was dealing with?
Yeah. I think we're done here with that.
Yeah. So
that was Heliar.
And then yes, the inside, having them talk in the inside the episode about what Helena's reaction might be to watching that video, it does help here, because I think it indicates that a potential willingness on Helena's part to go back down there until this is finished.
And let her innie enjoy that relationship.
Right.
Yeah. Because it is a part of you, right?
Yeah.
So next we see Milchick visit Irving and Dylan's Audis with pineapple baskets, clearly inviting them back. And Dylan's got to be stoked because a Great Doors interview did not go well.
No.
Then we watch Mark Scout return to Lumen as Mark W. from episode 1 is being escorted out after being fired, even after relocating.
From Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Only 2 days in, man. Threatening to sue. He's extremely pissed off, and rightfully so.
Broke his lease, man.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
We watch Dylan return to the office, put his stuff in a locker, and head up the elevator. We watch Irving return to the office, put his stuff in a locker, and head up an elevator. And finally, we watch Helena Egan return to the office, put her stuff in a locker, and head up the elevator. And then
down the elevator.
Down the elevator, excuse me, yeah. And then Mark Scout, the Audi, returns home after a hard day of work at Lumen to see Mrs. Selvig leaving her house. And earlier in the episode, there was a part where he got home and he was looking to see if she was over there. He kind of walked over towards her yard. He asks her who she is. She's responding very I don't know what that is, her personality, but it's like, it's almost hostile.
Oh, it is. It's combative.
It's just so condescending.
Yes, and condescending as well. And what is going on with Harmony Cabell is a really one of the more interesting questions at the moment for me.
Yeah.
Because we'll continue. You can
Yeah, okay. So she's like, I thought you said you were quitting. He says he ate her shitty fucking cookies. She says, quote, they convinced you to stay? Was a pineapple involved? You're so easy to sway. And she tries to drive off. Mark jumps in front of her car. She slams on the brakes. He's like, why did you do this? What the fuck is this all about? They stare each other down. He's like reading her, though, and she's trying not to give a read. It was a great facial acting, as we like to call it, from these two. And then he's like, do you know something about Gemma? They stare each other down some more. Miss Selvig yells violently, honks her horn, and speeds off, like nearly running this dude over.
Is Patricia Arquette, is she the best, like, psycho lady ever?
I mean, she's pretty good.
She's unreal at that. At this type of, like, freak out.
Of Big Little Lies season 2 when
when Laura Dern goes apeshit.
No, it's the the greatest living
Meryl
actor,
Streep?
Meryl Streep, when she snaps.
Okay,
and does the scream. But yeah, this was fantastic. So what the hell is going on with this lady?
The question there is so interesting to me because I'll reference the final episode of season 1 where as Miss Selvig, she is empathizing with Audi Mark, like telling him when he says that he's thinking about a change, she says like, yes, get away from those people, like
encouraging him.
The first time that she's let go, it's like this. She's so pissed, but it's also a release. She's tearing down her shrine. You know, this is it. Part of her shrine also has some like medical device tube on it with somebody's name. I don't know if it's a sister or a mom or what, but it seems like she's been involved in this for potentially her whole life, right? And so there's this duty that she feels, I think, this responsibility to Lumen, this need to be a part of it, but almost like only on her own terms. And as soon as that is threatened, she almost wants to break the other way. Because once again, this scene, my read, she's sitting in there in the car and she wants to tell him. You know what it?
Part of her does, yeah.
Part of her wants to tell him, yeah, your wife's down there. They have her. You dipshit, right?
She can't quite bring herself to do it, though.
But she can't fully break, and so she just screams, gives one of her great primal psycho screams, and nearly runs him over with the car. But
clearly she's torn.
She
remains torn.
Yes, and that is strange.
It's like they almost had her back in, but the second they tell her that Milch now runs the severed floor, she goes back the other way.
Right.
Like, fuck these people. I can't believe they would do that to me. Like, right back to where she was at the end of season 1. Remember, I mean, she breaks. She's encouraging Mark to leave, but then she realizes this is his innie, and oh my God, that means Helena is out there at the whatever fucking ball. Instead of Helena Egan, she goes and saves the day. Like, I don't know which way things are going to end up with her. You feel like maybe for better, though. Like, and potentially she has to die doing it, you know? We have so many other questions that one's like sort of peripheral at this point.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
But that's it. Roll credits after she almost runs him over. And this was an exciting one. I'll be honest with you. This is not what I expected, and so I was very like from the get-go, from the opening scene. I was like, "Whoa, what are we doing here? What? Okay." And then you kind of just have to stay so locked in the whole time to keep up.
And it's also like it's very much like the B-side to episode 1, right? Because it fills in what's happening on the outside and you're connecting the dots with our story beats over episode 1. So they really are a pair of sorts. Yeah,
it was brilliantly done. I mean, we had these questions after episode 1, many of which we addressed on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles. Like, how, like, had it been 5 months, how did Mark the Innie yelling into the board get him his whole team back? And even more confusingly, how did they convince Audi Irving, Audi Dillon to come back? And we get those answers here. Audi Irving, because he knows something.
Yep.
And he's interested and invested in this entire experience.
Yep.
Dylan, because he needed the friggin' work.
Yeah.
He's unemployed at that point, and he's got a family and kids to feed.
Yeah, he's got baby wipes to buy.
They filled in these gaps, and they answered these questions, and they did it in a creative and cool way, and it was very impressive for that reason. It's like, too many shows get caught up in leaving the questions lingering for as long as possible.
Right.
Like,
right.
a couple few we've watched recently that just like put too many pins in the board, and like eventually we're all going to get annoyed and stop caring.
Yeah.
This is the opposite of that. It's pretty satisfying almost immediately with some of these questions being answered, while also piling in numerous other questions.
And while also achieving what a TV show that wants to run for many seasons, as I imagine this one does, needs to do, which is sort of resetting the board.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of this, after the end of the first 2 episodes, where I imagine we go back to in episode 3, is the Macrodat Uprising 4 is back in Lumen working on the 7th floor.
Yeah.
They're going to be refining that data, and simultaneously
we pick up where we did at the end of episode 1.
Continuing to dig on the mysteries with the audience in tow. But it's interesting how they, I called episode 1 like the putting the band back together episode, and this one did a really nice job of kind of like showing us the other side, answering some questions, posing some new ones, and just like kind of setting us up for the story to continue, while also kind of taking it a step or two back. As you've said, we're not sure that Heliar's outburst at the gala is going to have any repercussions whatsoever. We found a way to get all of our innies back in there, including, as I think you and I both think now, Heliar, so that it's all been laid out very nicely in an artful way that like gives us stuff,
but also doesn't.
Yeah,
yes. It's playing it very close to the chest. If you look at the grand scheme of things through 2 episodes, it's going really, really slowly, which could feel frustrating, but it's so entertaining the way the show is put together, and it's so well done. And this was another fantastic episode, albeit it felt a lot more like an episode 2 than season 1 felt like a season premiere. So remember, later this week, Barrett and I will further discuss and digest this episode of Severance, almost called it Succession again, on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, and barring another illness for my outie, we will drop on Thursday. Last week we dropped on Friday. I know that was a little bit later than we would like to drop, so we're going to shoot for Thursdays as much as possible on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, where we dive deeper into each episode with further digestion and discussion, driven by hotline calls from our listeners who are supporting us on Patreon as subscribers of the Mollusk Militia. Remember, you can subscribe now on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Enjoy a 7-day free trial. You can check out our hotline call-driven episode for the season 2 premiere of Severance. See how you like it. Stick around, enjoy Thursday's show, and then stick around for the rest of the season. Also, please support our sponsors all season long by using the URLs and codes provided in the description of this episode. Today we had factormeals.com/OCC50off, and of course, rocketmoney.com/dragon. Follow Mr. Dudley on Instagram and Twitter at
Barrett Dudley.
At Barrett Dudley. And
2 R's, 2 T's.
I'm at WR Bolin. You can follow our show on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, etc., so on and so forth. Just search Oysters, Clams, and Cockles on any of those major social media platforms. Go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We look forward to hearing everyone's reactions on Patreon and reading them on social media. Until next time, go listen to some defiant jazz.